The grand halls of Buckingham Palace echoed with an unusual tension that morning in October. King Charles III stood by the tall windows of his private study, looking out at the gray London sky. His hands were clasped behind his back, and his face showed the weight of a decision that had been troubling him for months. Queen Camilla sat in her favorite armchair nearby, holding a cup of tea that had grown cold. Her eyes were red from crying, something that rarely happened to the woman who had faced years of public criticism with remarkable strength. The silence between them stretched longer than usual, broken only by the distant sounds of palace staff going about their daily duties. "Charles, please reconsider," Camilla said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tom is my son. Laura is my daughter. They've been nothing but supportive of us, of our marriage, of your reign. How can you simply cut them out of family gatherings?" The king turned slowly to face his wife. His expression was stern, the same look he wore during difficult state meetings. "Camilla, you must understand the position we're in. The monarchy needs to present a united front. Your children, while I respect them, represent complications we cannot afford right now." Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son from her first marriage, had recently published a cookbook that included some personal family stories. While the stories were harmless and actually quite charming, certain members of the royal household had expressed concerns about family members writing about their experiences. Laura Lopez, Camilla's daughter, had been quietly supporting various charities, but her presence at royal events had drawn media attention that palace advisors deemed unnecessary. The king's private secretary, Sir Clive Alderton, had presented Charles with a detailed report the previous week. The report suggested that limiting the visibility of Camilla's children would help streamline the royal family's public image. It recommended that Tom and Laura should not attend major royal events, including the upcoming Christmas celebrations at Sandringham. "But, Charles," Camilla continued, setting down her teacup with trembling hands, "these are not just my children. They are your stepchildren. When we married, you promised to accept them as part of our family. My grandchildren adore you. How do I explain to them why Grandpa Charles suddenly doesn't want them around?" The king walked to his desk, where photographs of the family lined the mahogany surface. Among them was a picture from their wedding day, showing Tom and Laura standing proudly beside their mother and new stepfather. Another photo showed Charles playing with Camilla's grandchildren in the gardens of Highgrove House, all of them laughing and enjoying a simple family moment. Prince William had arrived at the palace earlier that morning for his weekly meeting with his father. As he walked through the corridors toward the king's study, he could hear raised voices through the heavy wooden door. William paused, recognizing his stepmother's distressed tone. The Prince of Wales had always maintained a respectful relationship with Camilla and her children, understanding their importance in his father's happiness. Inside the study, the conversation continued to grow more heated. "You're asking me to choose between my duties as queen and my love for my children," Camilla said, standing up and facing her husband directly. "This isn't fair, Charles. This isn't the man I married." King Charles rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar pressure of a headache building. The weight of the crown felt heavier than usual that day. "I didn't make this decision lightly, Camilla. The advisors have made it clear that we need to reduce the number of working royals and focus on the core family. Your children, wonderful as they are not part of the direct line of succession." "Since when do we measure family worth by succession?" Camilla shot back, her voice rising. "Tom and Laura have never asked for titles or official roles. They've simply wanted to be part of their mother's life. They've supported us through everything, including the difficult early years of our marriage when the public was still adjusting to our relationship." The Queen's words hit a nerve with Charles. He remembered those challenging times when Camilla faced harsh criticism from the press and public. Tom and Laura had stood by their mother, never speaking negatively about the royal family despite the pressure they faced. Tom had even defended Charles in interviews, speaking about how happy his mother was and how well Charles treated her. A soft knock on the door interrupted their argument. Sir Clive entered with his usual formal manner, carrying a folder of documents that required the king's attention. He could immediately sense the tension in the room, but maintained his professional composure. "Your Majesty, I have the final guest list for the Christmas celebrations that requires your approval," Sir Clive announced, placing the folder on the king's desk. Camilla looked at her husband expectantly. This was the moment of truth. Would Charles include her children in the family's Christmas plans, or would he stand by his decision to exclude them? Charles opened the folder and reviewed the list. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez were notably absent from the names of invited family members. The king picked up his pen, hovering over the document as if he might add their names. Camilla watched hopefully, her heart racing with anticipation. Instead, Charles signed the document as it was, officially excluding Camilla's children from the royal family's Christmas celebration for the first time since his marriage to their mother. Camilla's face went pale. She sank back into her chair, the reality of her husband's decision hitting her like a physical blow. "I need some air," she whispered, standing up unsteadily and walking toward the door. As Camilla left the room, she nearly collided with Prince William, who was still waiting in the corridor. The Prince of Wales immediately noticed her distressed state and gently touched her arm. "Camilla, are you all right?" William asked with genuine concern. "Your father has decided that my children are no longer welcome at family gatherings," Camilla replied, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to process this, William. I don't know how to be queen while feeling like my family is being torn apart." William's expression darkened with concern and confusion. As the heir to the throne, he understood the pressures of royal duty, but he also valued family unity. He had worked hard to maintain good relationships with all members of their blended family, including Camilla's children. "I think there might be a misunderstanding," William said carefully. "Let me speak with father. Perhaps we can find a solution that works for everyone." Camilla shook her head sadly. "He's made his decision, William. The advisors have convinced him that my children are a liability to the monarchy. After everything we've been through, after all the years they've supported us, he's choosing to push them away." The Prince of Wales watched as Camilla walked down the corridor toward her own apartments, her shoulders slumped with defeat. He had never seen his stepmother look so broken. William turned toward his father's study, preparing for what he knew would be a difficult conversation. Inside the study, King Charles sat alone at his desk, staring at the signed document. Sir Clive had left, taking the approved guest list with him. The king looked at the family photographs again, his eyes lingering on the images of happier times with Camilla's children and grandchildren. Charles picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Tom Parkerbowl's number. He had called Tom just a few weeks earlier to congratulate him on a new business venture. The conversation had been warm and friendly, with Tom expressing his gratitude for Charles's support and mentorship over the years. The king's finger hovered over the call button, but he couldn't bring himself to dial. How would he explain to Tom that he was no longer invited to family events? How would he tell Laura, who had always been respectful and discreet, that her presence was somehow problematic? A memory surfaced of the previous Christmas at Sandringham. Tom's children had been playing in the snow with Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. The children had built snowmen together and had an epic snowball fight that even drew Charles into the fun. Laura's teenage children had helped organize games for all the cousins, creating a sense of extended family that Charles had genuinely enjoyed. The king remembered watching Camilla during those moments, seeing how happy she was to have all her loved ones together. Her face had glowed with joy as she watched her children and grandchildren interact naturally with the Wales children and the other young royals. It was the kind of multi-generational family gathering that Charles had always dreamed of having. Now he was deliberately destroying that unity based on advice from courtiers who saw the monarchy purely as a business operation rather than a family institution. Prince William knocked on the door and entered without waiting for permission, something he only did when family matters required immediate attention. "Father, we need to talk," William said, his tone serious but respectful. "I just spoke with Camilla in the corridor. She's devastated about your decision regarding Tom and Laura." Charles looked up at his eldest son, seeing the concern and confusion in William's eyes. "The decision has been made, William. The advisors were very clear about the need to streamline our family's public presence. With respect, Father, since when do we let advisors determine who counts as family?" William asked, sitting down across from his father's desk. "Tom and Laura have been nothing but loyal and discreet. They've never sought the spotlight or tried to capitalize on their connection to the royal family in inappropriate ways." The king leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of his son's words. "It's more complicated than that, William. Every family member who appears at royal events generates media attention and public interest. The advisors believe we need to focus that attention on the working royals and the direct line of succession." "But, Father, we're not just a business organization," William replied. "We're a family. When you married Camilla, her children became part of our family. They've treated you with respect and affection. Tom's children call you Grandpa Charles with genuine love. Are you really willing to hurt innocent children to satisfy some bureaucratic efficiency?" Charles felt a sharp pang of guilt at the mention of Camilla's grandchildren. The little ones had indeed embraced him as their grandfather, and he had grown genuinely fond of them. They brought a warmth and spontaneity to family gatherings that often helped everyone relax and enjoy themselves. The monarchy must come first, William, Charles said, though his voice lacked conviction. Personal feelings cannot override institutional needs. Who decided that caring for our family members was in conflict with serving the monarchy? William asked pointedly. Some of our greatest moments as a royal family have come from showing our humanity and our commitment to family values. Pushing away loyal family members doesn't strengthen the institution, it weakens our moral authority. Before Charles could respond, Queen Camilla appeared in the doorway. She had returned with red-rimmed eyes, but a determined expression. "I've made a decision," Camilla announced, her voice steady despite her obvious emotional distress. "If my children are not welcome at family gatherings, then I will not attend them either. I cannot, and will not choose between my role as queen and my love for my children." Both men looked at her in shock. The idea of the queen refusing to attend major royal events was unprecedented and would create a public relations nightmare. "Camilla, you can't be serious," Charles said, standing up from his desk. "You have obligations as queen consort. The public expects you to be present at important family events. Then, perhaps you should have considered that before deciding to exclude my children," Camilla replied firmly. "I've spent years adapting to royal life, accepting that my personal preferences often come second to duty. But I will not abandon my children to appease advisors who see them as inconvenient complications." William watched this exchange with growing alarm. As heir to the throne, he understood better than anyone how damaging a public rift in the royal family could be. The monarchy had worked hard to present an image of stability and unity after years of scandals and divorces in previous generations. "There has to be a solution that works for everyone," William said, looking between his father and stepmother. "We can't let palace bureaucracy destroy our family relationships." Charles walked to the window again, looking out at the palace gardens where tourists gathered daily to catch glimpses of royal life. He thought about how those people saw the royal family as symbols of continuity, tradition, and family values. What would they think if they knew that the king was deliberately excluding his stepchildren from family celebrations? The weight of the crown had never felt heavier. Charles had waited decades to become king, and now that he finally wore the crown, every decision seemed fraught with complications. He wanted to honor his duties as monarch while also being a good husband and father. But, increasingly, those two goals seemed to be in conflict. As the afternoon wore on, news of the family tension began to spread through the palace staff. Servants who had worked with the royal family for years were quietly discussing the unusual atmosphere and Queen Camilla's obvious distress. Some staff members had grown fond of Tom and Laura over the years, appreciating their down-to-earth manner and kindness toward palace employees. The news of the family dispute reached other members of the royal family by evening. Princess Anne, known for her direct approach to family matters, arrived at Buckingham Palace unannounced. As the king's sister, and had always maintained close relationships with both Charles and Camilla, and she was deeply concerned about the reports she had heard from palace staff. Princess Anne found Camilla in the Queen's private sitting room, surrounded by photo albums that showed years of family memories. Pictures of Tom and Laura at various royal events were scattered across the coffee table, along with drawings from Camilla's grandchildren that had been carefully preserved and framed. "This is absolutely ridiculous," and said without preamble, settling into a chair across from Camilla. "Charles is making a mistake that could destroy everything you've both worked to build." Camilla looked up with grateful surprise. While she had always gotten along well with, and the Princess Royal was not known for involving herself in family drama, her presence and support meant more than Camilla could express. "I don't know what to do," and Camilla admitted. "I love Charles deeply, but I cannot and will not abandon my children. They've done nothing wrong except have the misfortune of being my children rather than his biological children," and studied the photographs spread across the table. She picked up one that showed Tom teaching Prince George how to cook during a family weekend at Highgrove. Another photo showed Laura helping Princess Charlotte with her horse riding, both of them laughing as the young princess gained confidence in the saddle. "These children have been nothing but assets to our family," and observed. "Tom has used his platform as a food writer to promote British cuisine and farming, which aligns perfectly with Charles's environmental interests. Laura has quietly supported various charities without seeking publicity or recognition. They've handled their unusual position with grace and discretion." Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Prince Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, were having their own conversation about the situation. Sophie, who had always admired Camilla's strength and resilience, was particularly upset about the treatment of her sister-in-law. "I cannot believe Charles is allowing advisors to dictate his family relationships," Sophie said to her husband as they prepared for dinner. "Camilla has been such a positive influence on him, and her children have always been respectful and appropriate in their interactions with our family." Prince Edward nodded thoughtfully. As the youngest of Charles's siblings, he had often felt pressure to prove his worth within the royal framework. He understood how difficult it could be to balance personal relationships with institutional expectations, but he also believed that family loyalty should take precedence. "Tom and Laura have never asked for special treatment or official roles," Edward pointed out. "They've simply wanted to maintain their relationship with their mother and stepfather. If we start excluding family members based on bureaucratic convenience, where does it end?" Back in the king's study, Charles sat alone with a glass of whiskey, something he rarely indulged in during the day. The weight of his decision was beginning to settle on him, and he was starting to question the wisdom of following his advisor's recommendations without considering the human cost. Sir Clive returned with additional documents requiring royal approval, but he could sense the king's troubled mood. The private secretary had served the royal household for many years and had witnessed numerous family crises. He recognized the signs of a decision that might need to be reconsidered. "Your Majesty, if I may," Sir Clive said carefully. "The staff has noticed unusual tension today. Is there anything that needs to be addressed or reconsidered?" Charles looked at his longtime advisor with surprise. Sir Clive was not typically one to question royal decisions or involve himself in family matters. His willingness to speak up suggested that the situation was more serious than Charles had realized. "The decision regarding the Christmas guest list is final," Charles said, but his tone lacked the conviction it had held earlier. "Of course, Your Majesty," Sir Clive replied diplomatically. "However, I feel obligated to mention that the household staff holds Mr. Parker Bowles and Miss Lopez in high regard. Their absence from family events would be noted not just by the family, but by the many staff members who have come to appreciate their kindness and genuine interest in the welfare of palace employees." This observation hit Charles harder than expected. He had not considered how Tom and Laura's exclusion would affect the palace staff, many of whom had worked with the family for years. Both of Camilla's children had always made an effort to remember staff members' names, ask about their families, and express genuine gratitude for their service. Tom, in particular, had developed friendships with some of the palace chefs, often discussing cooking techniques and sharing recipes. He had even written about the skill and dedication of royal household staff in some of his articles, always with respect and admiration. Laura had quietly supported several charities that benefited palace employees and their families, never seeking recognition for her contributions. The king dismissed Sir Clive and walked to the palace's portrait gallery, where paintings of previous monarchs lined the walls. He stopped before a portrait of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, remembering her approach to family matters. While she had always maintained the dignity and traditions of the monarchy, she had also valued family unity and loyalty. Charles recalled conversations with his mother about the importance of balancing royal duty with human compassion. She had always stressed that the monarchy's strength came not just from tradition and ceremony, but from the genuine relationships and values that the royal family represented to the public. As evening approached, more concerning news reached the king. Tom Parker Bowles had been contacted by several media outlets asking for comments about rumors of a family rift. While Tom had declined to comment, the fact that journalists were already investigating the story suggested that news of the family tension would soon become public. Laura Lopez had received similar calls from reporters. Like her brother, she had refused to discuss family matters publicly, but she was clearly distressed by the situation. Friends close to Laura reported that she was confused and hurt by her sudden exclusion from family events, especially since she had done nothing to warrant such treatment. Queen Camilla received a phone call from her daughter that evening, adding another layer of emotional complexity to the situation. "Mom, I don't understand what's happening," Laura said, her voice thick with emotion. "Have I done something wrong? Has Tom offended someone? We've tried so hard to be respectful and appropriate in everything we do related to the royal family." Camilla's heart broke listening to her daughter's confusion and pain. "You and Tom have done absolutely nothing wrong, darling. This is not about your behavior or anything you've said or done. This is about palace advisors who think our family is too complicated for public consumption. But, Mom, we've never sought publicity or tried to capitalize on our connection to the royal family, Laura continued. We've just wanted to be part of your life and support you in your role as queen. Are we really such a problem? The conversation with Laura convinced Camilla that she could not accept the situation as it stood. Her children were being punished for circumstances beyond their control, and their genuine confusion and hurt only reinforced her determination to fight for their inclusion in the family. Prince William spent the evening discussing the situation with his wife, Catherine. The Princess of Wales had always maintained good relationships with Camilla's children, appreciating their supportive attitude and genuine affection for the royal family. This is exactly the kind of family division that we've worked so hard to avoid, Catherine observed. Tom and Laura have always been respectful of boundaries while still being warm and supportive family members. Their children get along beautifully with George, Charlotte, and Louis. Why would we want to destroy those positive relationships? William agreed with his wife's assessment. As future king, he was concerned about the precedent being set. If we start excluding family members based on the advice of courtiers rather than their actual behavior or character, we're essentially saying that bureaucratic convenience matters more than family loyalty. That's not the kind of monarchy I want to lead someday. The Prince and Princess of Wales decided to take action. They arranged to meet with both Tom and Laura the following day to express their support and to assure them that not all members of the royal family agreed with the king's decision. Meanwhile, palace staff began to notice changes in Queen Camilla's behavior. She appeared withdrawn and sad, a stark contrast to her usually warm and engaged demeanor. Staff members who had worked with the Queen for years could see that she was struggling emotionally, and their concern for her well-being added another dimension to the unfolding crisis. The Queen's private secretary approached Camilla with the schedule for upcoming royal engagements, but Camilla seemed distracted and uninterested in her official duties. This was completely out of character for a woman who had embraced her royal role with dedication and enthusiasm. Your Majesty, shall I confirm your attendance at the children's charity event next week? The secretary asked. Camilla looked at the schedule without really seeing it. I'm not sure, Margaret. I need to think about my future commitments. This response alarmed the secretary, who immediately understood that the Queen was considering reducing her royal duties in response to the family crisis. Such a decision would have significant implications for the monarchy's public schedule and could not be hidden from media attention. As news of Camilla's potential withdrawal from royal duties reached other senior staff members, concern grew throughout the palace. The Queen Consort had become popular with both staff and the public, and her reduced participation in royal events would inevitably lead to speculation about problems within the royal family. Sir Clive found himself in an increasingly difficult position. As private secretary to the king, his primary loyalty was to Charles, but he could see that the current situation was unsustainable. The family crisis was beginning to affect the smooth operation of the royal household and threatened to become a public relations disaster. That evening, Princess Anne requested a private meeting with her brother. She found Charles in his study, looking tired and troubled. The king's usual confident demeanor had been replaced by obvious uncertainty and stress. Charles, this situation with Camilla's children has gone too far, and said without any diplomatic softening. You're destroying your marriage and damaging the family for the sake of some misguided advice from courtiers who don't understand what really matters. And the situation is more complex than you realize, Charles replied wearily. The advisors have made compelling arguments about the need to streamline the royal family's public presence. Compelling to whom? And shot back. Have you considered what the public actually thinks about family values? Do you think people will admire a king who abandons his stepchildren to satisfy bureaucratic efficiency? This is exactly the kind of cold, calculating behavior that made the monarchy seem out of touch in previous generations. Princess Anne's words struck a chord with Charles. He had spent years working to modernize the monarchy and make it more relatable to ordinary families. The idea that his current actions might have the opposite effect was deeply troubling. Moreover, and continued, Camilla is threatening to withdraw from royal duties if you maintain this position. How do you think that will look to the public? A queen consort who feels forced to choose between her husband and her children? The media will have a field day with that story. Charles rubbed his temples, feeling the full weight of the crisis he had created. What do you suggest I do? I've already signed the Christmas guest list. I've made my position clear to the advisors. You're the king, Charles, and reminded him firmly. You can change your mind. You can admit that you made an error in judgment and correct it before permanent damage is done to your family relationships. The conversation with and forced Charles to confront the reality of what he was choosing. He was prioritizing the advice of courtiers over the happiness of his wife and the unity of his family. More importantly, he was potentially destroying relationships that had taken years to build and that brought genuine joy to all involved. Late that night, Charles found himself looking through photo albums in his private quarters, just as Camilla had done earlier. He came across pictures from recent family gatherings, studying the faces of everyone involved. Tom and Laura always looked genuinely happy to be included, never appearing to seek attention or inappropriate recognition. Their children interacted naturally with the other young royals, creating the kind of extended family atmosphere that Charles had always believed was important for the emotional development of royal children. The presence of cousins and step-cousins provided George, Charlotte, and Louis with a broader network of family relationships and helped normalize their somewhat unusual childhood experiences. Charles paused at a photograph from the previous Easter celebration. The image showed him teaching several of the children, including Tom's and Laura's children, how to garden at Highgrove House. All the children were dirty and laughing, completely absorbed in the simple pleasure of planting seeds and learning about sustainable farming practices. The king realized that this photograph represented exactly the kind of family moment he had always wanted to create. The children were learning valuable lessons about environmental stewardship while also bonding as an extended family. Tom and Laura had facilitated these experiences by bringing their children to family events and encouraging their participation in activities led by their step-grandfather. Looking at these photos, Charles began to understand what he was throwing away. These were not just abstract family relationships. They were genuine bonds that had developed over years of shared experiences, mutual respect, and authentic affection. The following morning brought an unexpected development that would change the entire dynamic of the crisis. Tom Parker Bowles received a phone call from a prominent charity organization that had been working with the royal family for several years. The caller informed him that several major donors had specifically mentioned their appreciation for Tom's involvement in food-related charity work and had increased their contributions partly because of his authentic approach to supporting good causes. This information reached Queen Camilla through her own charity contacts, and she immediately understood the implications. Tom's quiet but genuine involvement in charitable work was not just personally fulfilling, it was actually benefiting the causes that the royal family supported. His exclusion from family events might signal to these donors that his contributions were not valued, potentially affecting their future support. Camilla brought this information to Charles during their morning coffee, a daily ritual they had maintained even during their current difficulties. "Charles, I've learned something important about Tom's charity work," Camilla said, setting down documents that detailed the financial impact of Tom's involvement. "His participation in our family events isn't just personal. It's actually supporting the causes we care about." Donors specifically mention him when they explain their increased contributions. The king studied the documents with growing interest. He had not realized the extent to which Tom's genuine approach to charitable work was resonating with supporters. Tom never sought recognition for his contributions, but his authentic passion for food security and sustainable farming was clearly making a positive impact. Similarly, Camilla continued, Laura's quiet support for various causes has been noticed by other charitable organizations. She's brought in new volunteers and supporters simply through her respectful and dedicated approach. These are not people seeking publicity. They're family members who are genuinely contributing to the work we do. This information forced Charles to reconsider his advisor's recommendations. The courtiers had presented Tom and Laura as potential liabilities, but the evidence suggested they were actually assets who strengthened the royal family's charitable impact through their authentic commitment and respectful approach. Prince William arrived for his scheduled meeting with his father, accompanied by unexpected guests. He had brought Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez with him, hoping to facilitate a direct conversation that might resolve the family crisis. "Father, I've asked Tom and Laura to join us today because I think you need to hear directly from them," William said as they entered the king's study. "There are misunderstandings that need to be addressed, and I believe honest communication is the only way forward." Charles looked surprised but not displeased to see his stepchildren. Despite the current crisis, he had always genuinely liked both Tom and Laura and valued their straightforward, unpretentious approach to their unique family situation. Tom stepped forward first, his expression serious, but respectful. Your Majesty, William suggested that we speak directly about the current situation. I want you to know that Laura and I have never intended to create complications for the royal family. If our presence at family events has somehow become problematic, we would appreciate understanding why so that we can address any concerns. Laura nodded in agreement. We've always tried to be respectful of royal protocols and boundaries. Our goal has always been to support Mother in her role while maintaining appropriate distance from official royal duties. If we've somehow failed in this balance, please help us understand how we can do better. Charles was struck by their mature and thoughtful approach to the situation. Neither Tom nor Laura seemed angry or defensive. Instead, they appeared genuinely concerned about their mother's well-being and willing to make adjustments if necessary to support the royal family's needs. Your behavior has never been the problem, Charles admitted, feeling somewhat ashamed of his recent decision. The advisors recommended reducing the number of family members who appear at royal events to streamline our public presentation. But surely there's a difference between official royal events and private family gatherings. Tom asked respectfully. We've never sought to attend state functions or official ceremonies. We've only wanted to maintain our family relationships, particularly during holidays and personal celebrations. Laura added, our children don't understand royal protocols or succession lines. They only know that they love their grandmother and their step-grandfather. Explaining why they're suddenly not welcome at family Christmas would be devastating for them and impossible to justify. William watched his father's expression carefully, noting the internal struggle that was clearly taking place. The Prince of Wales could see that Charles was beginning to understand the human cost of his decision and was questioning the wisdom of prioritizing bureaucratic recommendations over family relationships. Moreover, Tom continued, we've been careful to never discuss our family relationships with the media. When journalists call us, which happens occasionally, we always decline to comment on personal matters. We understand that discretion is essential, and we've never violated that trust. Charles realized that Tom was absolutely correct. Despite years of media interest in their unique family situation, both Tom and Laura had maintained complete discretion about their relationships with the royal family. They had never sold stories, written unauthorized books, or given interviews that traded on their family connections. Queen Camilla entered the study at this moment, having been informed by staff that her children were meeting with the king. She looked relieved to see everyone together in the same room, hoping that direct communication might lead to a resolution. I'm glad you're all talking, Camilla said, taking a seat near her husband. This situation has been tearing our family apart, and it's affecting everyone, including the grandchildren who don't understand why there's suddenly tension among the adults they love. The mention of the grandchildren brought another dimension to the conversation. Charles thought about Tom's children and Laura's children, all of whom had come to see him as a beloved grandfather figure. These children had done nothing to deserve being cut off from family relationships, and their confusion and hurt would be impossible to explain or justify. Prince William decided to share some additional perspective. Father, I've spoken with Catherine about this situation, and we both believe that Tom and Laura's children are actually beneficial for George, Charlotte, and Louis. Having extended family relationships helps our children understand that they're part of a larger family network, not just isolated royal figures. The children play together beautifully, Camilla added. They've developed genuine friendships that transcend any royal protocols. Tom's children and Laura's children help our grandchildren feel more normal and connected to life outside the palace walls. Charles remembered the joy on his youngest grandchildren's faces during recent family gatherings. Prince Louis, in particular, seemed to blossom when playing with his older step-cousins, who treated him with the same casual affection they showed all their relatives. These relationships provided the Wales children with experiences of normal family life that would be difficult to replicate in other circumstances. Sir Clive appeared in the doorway, carrying an urgent message that would add another layer of complexity to the situation. Your Majesty, I have some concerning news from the press office. Several media outlets are preparing stories about family tension, and they seem to have sources close to the household. This development alarmed everyone in the room. The royal family had worked hard to maintain positive press coverage and avoid the kind of personal scandals that had plagued previous generations. The prospect of negative stories about family division was exactly what Charles had hoped to avoid by following his advisor's recommendations. What kind of stories? William asked, understanding the potential implications for the monarchy's public image. The reports suggest that there are serious disagreements within the family about the role of the queen consort's children, Sir Clive explained diplomatically. Some sources claim that there's tension between traditional royal advisors and family members who want a more inclusive approach. Tom and Laura exchanged concerned glances. They had both been contacted by journalists recently, but they had assumed the interest was routine rather than connected to any specific story. The idea that their family situation was becoming a public controversy was deeply troubling to them. "This is exactly what we were trying to avoid," Charles said, running his hands through his hair in frustration. The advisors insisted that reducing family complexity would prevent media scrutiny, but apparently it's having the opposite effect. Camilla spoke up with barely controlled emotion. "Charles, the media attention is not because Tom and Laura have done anything inappropriate. It's because people who know our family are concerned about the sudden change in treatment of family members who have always been respectful and supportive." Laura looked directly at her stepfather with tears in her eyes. "Your Majesty, we never wanted to be the source of any controversy or difficulty for the royal family. If our presence creates problems, we're prepared to step back from family events. But please understand that this would be incredibly painful for our children, who love you and look forward to family gatherings." Tom nodded in agreement. "We would do whatever is necessary to support Mother and the royal family, even if it means personal sacrifice on our part. But we hope there might be a solution that doesn't require destroying family relationships that have taken years to build." Their willingness to sacrifice their own happiness for the good of the family touched Charles deeply. This was exactly the kind of selfless approach that he valued, and that reflected well on Camilla's parenting. Tom and Laura were demonstrating the same sense of duty and consideration for others that Charles tried to instill in his own children. Prince William recognized that the conversation had reached a critical moment. "Father, it seems to me that the choice is clear. We can either maintain a bureaucratic approach that pleases advisors but hurts family relationships and generates negative publicity, or we can embrace the family unity that actually strengthens our public image and reflects our values." The Prince of Wales continued, "The public respects family loyalty and genuine relationships. They would be more likely to criticize us for abandoning family members than for including them in appropriate family events." Charles walked to the window, looking out at the tourists gathered outside the palace gates. These were the people whose opinion truly mattered, ordinary families who looked to the royal family as an example of values and behavior. Would these families admire a king who excluded stepchildren to satisfy bureaucratic efficiency, or would they prefer a king who demonstrated loyalty and inclusiveness? The advisors who recommended this approach, Charles said slowly, "How much direct contact do they have with the public? How well do they understand what ordinary families actually value?" Sir Clive cleared his throat diplomatically. "Your Majesty, the recommendations came primarily from courtiers who focus on protocol and tradition. They may not have fully considered the public's appreciation for family unity and inclusive values." This observation crystallized Charles's growing doubts about the decision. The advisors who had pushed for Tom and Laura's exclusion were not necessarily in touch with modern family values or contemporary public opinion. They were applying outdated notions of royal exclusivity that might not reflect what the monarchy needed in the 21st century. Queen Camilla stood up and walked to her husband's side at the window. "Charles, when we married, we both knew it would be complicated. We both had children from previous relationships, and we both had to adapt to a new family structure. But over the years, we've created something beautiful, a blended family that works because everyone involved has chosen love and respect over convenience. That's what people admire about our story," Camilla continued. "We prove that second chances and blended families can succeed when everyone involved is committed to making it work. If we abandon that now, we're not just hurting our family. We're sending a message to other blended families that their relationships don't matter when things get complicated." Charles realized that Camilla was absolutely right. Their success as a blended family had been one of the positive aspects of their public story. Many people in modern Britain lived in similar family situations and looked to the royal family as an example of how to navigate the complexities of step relationships and extended families. Tom spoke up quietly. "Your Majesty, Laura, and I have always understood that our situation is unique and sometimes complicated. We've tried to be helpful and supportive without being presumptuous. If there are specific concerns about our involvement in family events, we're willing to discuss modifications or compromises that address those concerns while maintaining our family relationships." This practical, problem-solving approach impressed Charles. Tom and Laura were not demanding special treatment or refusing to consider adjustments. They were simply asking for the opportunity to remain part of their mother's life, while respecting any legitimate constraints imposed by royal protocols. The king found himself remembering why he had grown fond of Camilla's children in the first place. They approached their unusual family situation with maturity, humor, and genuine affection for all involved. They had never tried to capitalize on their royal connections, never created scandals or controversies, and never demanded recognition or special treatment. What specific modifications might work? Charles asked, surprising everyone with his apparent willingness to reconsider the situation. William immediately recognized the opportunity. Perhaps Tom and Laura could attend private family events like Christmas and Easter celebrations, but not official state functions or public royal events. That would maintain family unity while addressing any concerns about public presentation. Laura nodded enthusiastically. We've never wanted to attend official royal events or public functions. We've only wanted to be included in family celebrations and personal milestones. That distinction makes perfect sense to us. Tom agreed. Family Christmas, Easter, and birthday celebrations are what matter to our children. They don't need or want to attend state banquets or official ceremonies. They just want to maintain their relationships with their grandmother and step-grandfather. Charles found himself genuinely considering this compromise proposal. The distinction between private family gatherings and official royal events made logical sense and could address the advisor's concerns while preserving the family relationships that mattered to everyone involved. Sir Clive, the king said, turning to his private secretary, please arrange a meeting with the senior advisors who recommended the original exclusion policy. I want to discuss this proposed compromise with them before making any final decisions. Queen Camilla felt a surge of hope for the first time in days. The fact that Charles was willing to reconsider the situation and explore alternatives suggested that their marriage and family might survive this crisis after all. Over the next few hours, a series of meetings took place throughout Buckingham Palace as various stakeholders weighed in on the proposed compromise. The senior advisors who had originally recommended the exclusion policy were not entirely pleased with the king's reconsideration, but they recognized that family harmony was essential for the monarchy's long-term stability. Lord Chamberlain's office reviewed the proposed distinction between private family events and official royal functions, concluding that such an approach was both practical and precedent. Historical examples existed of royal family members who participated in private celebrations while maintaining limited roles in public ceremonies. The press office conducted a quick analysis of potential public reaction to different approaches. Their findings strongly supported the compromise position, indicating that the public was more likely to respond positively to royal family unity than to bureaucratic exclusion of family members. Meanwhile, news of the family crisis had begun to spread beyond palace walls. Several royal correspondents received tips from palace sources about tensions within the family, and some were preparing to publish stories about the situation. Princess Anne took it upon herself to call several trusted royal correspondents to provide context for any stories they might be considering. Without violating family confidentiality, she was able to convey that any family discussions were being handled internally and amicably, helping to prevent sensationalized reporting. Prince William and Catherine also played a crucial role during this critical period. They reached out to Tom and Laura's families to provide reassurance and support during the uncertain time. Catherine, in particular, made sure that the children in both families understood that any adult discussions were not their fault and that they remained loved and valued family members. The Wales children were kept informed in age-appropriate ways about the family discussions. Prince George, as the oldest, was particularly concerned about his step-cousins and asked his parents directly whether the extended family would remain together. Family relationships are sometimes complicated, George, William explained to his son. But the most important thing is that everyone feels loved and included. Grandfather Charles is working to make sure that continues to be the case. Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis were too young to understand the political implications, but they were aware that there had been some sadness among the adults. Catherine made sure to arrange playdates with their step-cousins to reinforce the message that family relationships remain strong regardless of any temporary difficulties. These efforts to maintain normal family interactions during the crisis helped demonstrate to Charles just how integrated the extended family had become. The children's natural affection for each other and Their confusion about any potential separation highlighted the human cost of bureaucratic decisions. That evening, Charles met privately with the senior advisors who had recommended the original exclusion policy. The meeting was tense but professional, with both sides recognizing the need to find a sustainable solution. Your Majesty, the senior advisor began. Our original recommendation was based on the principle that the royal family's public image should focus on the direct line of succession and minimize potential complications. I understand the reasoning, Charles replied. However, I'm concerned that this approach may be causing more complications than it prevents. The family division is generating negative attention, and the exclusion of well-behaved family members doesn't seem to serve any constructive purpose. Another advisor spoke up. The concern, Your Majesty, is that including the Queen Consort's children in family events might send the message that the boundaries around royal family membership are unclear or indefinite. But surely we can make distinctions between private family celebrations and official royal functions? Charles asked. Tom and Laura have never sought official roles or public recognition. They've simply wanted to maintain their relationships with their mother and the family she joined through marriage. The advisors exchanged glances, recognizing that the king was moving toward a position that differed significantly from their original recommendations. However, they also understood that family harmony was essential for the monarchy's stability and public image. Such a distinction could work, the senior advisor admitted. Private family celebrations could include a broader range of family members while official functions maintain focus on working royals and the direct succession line. Charles felt relief at this acknowledgement. The advisors were not completely inflexible, and a compromise approach might satisfy both bureaucratic concerns and family needs. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla was having her own important conversation with Tom and Laura's families. She wanted to make sure that the children understood that any recent tensions were being resolved and that their relationships with their royal grandparents remained strong and important. Grandmama looked sad, observed one of Tom's younger children during a video call with Camilla. Are you okay? Camilla's heart nearly broke at the child's genuine concern. I'm much better now, darling. There was some confusion about family plans, but everything is being sorted out. The most important thing is that we all love each other very much. Laura's teenage daughter asked more direct questions. Mom said there might be changes to family events. Does that mean we won't see Grandpa Charles anymore? Absolutely not, Camilla assured her granddaughter firmly. Grandpa Charles loves you very much, and nothing is going to change that. We're working out some details about different types of events, but family relationships remain the most important thing. These conversations with the grandchildren reinforced Camilla's determination to fight for family unity. The children's obvious love for Charles and their confusion about any potential separation demonstrated how successful their blended family had become over the years. Late that evening, Charles and Camilla had their most honest and emotional conversation since the crisis began. They sat in their private sitting room, finally, able to speak openly about their fears, hopes, and commitments to each other and their family. Charles, I need you to understand something, Camilla said, taking her husband's hands in hers. When I married you, I didn't just marry you. I became part of your family, and you became part of mine. That includes Tom and Laura and their children. If we start picking and choosing which family members matter based on bureaucratic convenience, we're undermining everything we've built together. Charles looked into his wife's eyes, seeing the pain that his decision had caused her, but also the strength and determination that had made him fall in love with her in the first place. I realize now that I allowed the advisors to convince me that institutional concerns should override family relationships, Charles admitted. That was wrong. The monarchy is strongest when it reflects genuine values and authentic relationships, not when it sacrifices human connections for bureaucratic efficiency. The children are what matter most in all of this, Camilla continued. Your grandchildren and mine have developed real relationships with each other. They don't understand succession lines or royal protocols. They only know that they love their family members and want to spend time together. Charles nodded, thinking about the recent family gatherings that had brought him so much joy. Some of my happiest moments as king have been during family celebrations when I could just be a grandfather and stepfather, not a monarch. Those relationships keep me grounded and remind me what really matters. That's exactly right, Camilla agreed. The public doesn't admire us because we're perfect or because we follow rigid protocols. They admire us when we demonstrate genuine love, loyalty, and commitment to each other. Our success as a blended family has been one of the positive aspects of our story. The conversation continued late into the night, with both Charles and Camilla sharing their hopes for their family's future and their commitment to making their blended family work despite the unique pressures of royal life. The following morning brought a breakthrough. Charles called a meeting with all the senior advisors to announce his decision about the family situation. After careful consideration and extensive consultation, the king announced, "I have decided to modify our approach to family event planning. Private family celebrations, including Christmas and Easter gatherings, will continue to include all family members who have traditionally participated, including the Queen Consort's children and grandchildren." The advisors listened carefully as Charles continued. However, official state functions and public royal events will maintain focus on working royals and the direct line of succession. This distinction allows us to preserve family unity while addressing legitimate concerns about public presentation and resource allocation. Sir Clive took notes as the king outlined the new policy. This approach recognizes that the royal family serves multiple roles. We are a working institution, but we are also a family unit that must function successfully on a personal level. Both aspects are important for the monarchy's long-term stability and public support. One of the senior advisors asked about implementation details. "Your Majesty, how should we handle media inquiries about family event attendance?" "We will be transparent about our approach," Charles replied confidently. Private family celebrations include all family members, while official functions focus on working royals. This distinction is logical, precedent, and reflects modern family values that the public will understand and respect. The decision represented a significant victory for family unity over bureaucratic rigidity. More importantly, it demonstrated Charles's growth as both a king and a family leader, showing his ability to reconsider decisions when presented with better information and perspectives. Queen Camilla received the news of Charles's decision with tears of relief and joy. The weight that had been crushing her for days lifted immediately, replaced by renewed love and respect for her husband's willingness to prioritize their family relationships. Prince William was equally pleased with his father's decision. The Prince of Wales had been genuinely concerned that the family division might create lasting damage to relationships that were important for everyone involved, including his own children. Tom and Laura learned about the king's decision through a warm phone call from Camilla. Both of them expressed gratitude not just for the outcome, but for Charles's willingness to reconsider the situation and find a solution that worked for everyone. "Please tell His Majesty that we're deeply grateful for his thoughtfulness and his commitment to our family," Tom said during the call. "We understand the unique pressures he faces, and we appreciate his willingness to find a way to balance institutional needs with family relationships." Laura echoed her brother's sentiments. "We promise to continue being respectful of boundaries and appropriate in our behavior. We understand that our situation is unique, and will always be mindful of that responsibility." The resolution of the crisis strengthened the family in unexpected ways. The process of working through the disagreement had forced everyone to articulate what they valued most about their relationships and had demonstrated everyone's commitment to making their blended family succeed despite external pressures. Princess Anne, who had played a crucial role in advocating for family unity, expressed satisfaction with the outcome. "Charles made the right decision," she observed. "Strong institutions are built on strong relationships, not rigid protocols. This family is stronger because we worked through this challenge together." The palace staff also responded positively to the resolution. Many had been genuinely concerned about the potential exclusion of Tom and Laura, whom they had come to respect and appreciate over the years. The restoration of family unity improved morale throughout the royal household. As news of the resolution spread through appropriate channels, the media attention that had been building around the family crisis began to dissipate. Royal correspondents who had been preparing critical stories about family division instead found themselves reporting on successful conflict resolution and the monarchy's commitment to modern family values. The weeks following the resolution of the family crisis brought a renewed sense of harmony and purpose to the royal household. King Charles found that his decision to prioritize family unity over bureaucratic recommendations had not only saved his marriage but had actually strengthened his position as a modern, compassionate monarch who understood contemporary family values. The first test of the new arrangement came with the planning for the Christmas celebrations at Sandringham. Palace staff worked efficiently to organize accommodations and activities for the extended family, including Tom and Laura's children, who were excited to resume their traditional participation in royal family holiday traditions. Queen Camilla threw herself into Christmas planning with renewed enthusiasm. The prospect of having all her loved ones together for the holidays filled her with joy and energy that palace staff hadn't seen since before the crisis began. Her renewed engagement with her royal duties also had a positive impact on her public appearances and charitable work. Prince William and Catherine watched the family preparations with satisfaction and relief. They had been genuinely concerned that the crisis might create permanent divisions that would affect their own children's relationships with their extended family. The resolution meant that George, Charlotte, and Louis would continue to benefit from the diverse perspectives and authentic relationships that their step-cousins provided. Tom Parker Bowles approached the restored family arrangements with characteristic grace and discretion. He made sure that his participation in family events remained appropriate and low-key, never seeking attention or recognition for his renewed inclusion. His behavior during this period reinforced Charles's growing conviction that the advisors had been wrong to view Tom as a potential liability. Laura Lopez was equally thoughtful in her approach to the new arrangement. She worked quietly with palace staff to ensure that her children understood the appropriate behavior expected during royal family gatherings, while still allowing them to enjoy natural family relationships with their step-cousins. The children from both families adapted seamlessly to the restored unity. For them, the brief period of uncertainty had been confusing and sad, but the return to normal family interactions felt natural and joyful. Their obvious happiness during family gatherings provided constant validation for Charles's decision to prioritize family relationships over bureaucratic concerns. As Christmas approached, Charles found himself looking forward to the holiday celebrations with genuine excitement for the first time in months. The prospect of having all his grandchildren and step-grandchildren together at Sandringham brought him the kind of personal satisfaction that had been missing during the darkest period of the family crisis. The Christmas celebrations at Sandringham exceeded everyone's expectations. The extended family gathered in the traditional Norfolk estate, where several generations of royals had spent their holidays. The presence of Tom and Laura's families added warmth and spontaneity to the festivities, creating the kind of multi-generational celebration that Charles had always envisioned for his reign. Christmas morning brought particular joy as the children opened presents together, sharing in the excitement and wonder that made the holiday special regardless of royal protocols. Charles watched his various grandchildren and step-grandchildren interact with pure family affection, confirming his belief that he had made the right decision in prioritizing these relationships. Tom's children presented Charles with handmade gifts that reflected their genuine affection for their step-grandfather. Laura's children contributed their own thoughtful presents, including a photo album they had created documenting family moments from throughout the year. These personal touches highlighted the authentic relationships that had developed over time and would have been lost if the exclusion policy had continued. The success of the Christmas celebrations attracted positive media attention, though the coverage remained respectful and focused on the family's commitment to traditional values and modern inclusiveness. Royal correspondents noted the apparent happiness and unity of the extended family, contrasting it favorably with previous periods of royal family tension and division. Queen Camilla's obvious joy during the holiday period was particularly noted by royal watchers. Her renewed energy and engagement reinforced public appreciation for her role as queen consort and demonstrated the positive impact of family harmony on her ability to fulfill her royal duties. Prince William used the Christmas gathering as an opportunity to observe how the extended family dynamics might evolve during his own future reign. He was pleased to see that the inclusive approach created a more relaxed and authentic family atmosphere that could serve as a positive model for royal family relationships in the coming decades. The new year brought reflection on the lessons learned during the family crisis. Charles realized that his initial willingness to follow advisory recommendations without considering family impact had been a significant leadership error. The experience taught him to balance institutional advice with personal values and family considerations. The king decided to implement changes in how family-related decisions would be made in the future. He established a new protocol requiring that any recommendations affecting family relationships would be reviewed not just by institutional advisors, but also by family members who would be directly impacted by such decisions. Sir Clive and other senior palace staff adapted to the new approach with professional flexibility. They recognized that the king's commitment to family unity actually strengthened the monarchy's public image and provided a more sustainable foundation for long-term institutional success. The resolution of the crisis also had positive implications for Charles's relationship with his own children. Prince William and Prince Harry both observed how their father had ultimately chosen family loyalty over bureaucratic convenience, providing a positive example of leadership that prioritized relationships over rigid institutional thinking. Princess Anne continued to play an important role as a family advisor and advocate for unity. Her intervention during the crisis had been crucial, and Charles came to value her perspective on family matters as much as her insights on official royal duties. The restored family harmony extended to charitable work as well. Tom and Laura's continued involvement in family-related charitable activities proved beneficial for the causes they supported, as their authentic commitment attracted donors and volunteers who appreciated their respectful approach to royal family connections. Queen Camilla's charitable work flourished as her personal happiness and family stability provided renewed energy for her official duties. Her speeches and public appearances during this period were noted for their warmth and authenticity, qualities that resonated strongly with the public. The grandchildren's obvious happiness and strong family relationships became one of the positive aspects of royal family coverage during this period. Media outlets frequently noted how the various children interacted naturally and affectionately, providing a heartwarming contrast to previous generations of royal family dysfunction. As spring arrived, the extended family gathered for Easter celebrations that further reinforced the success of the inclusive approach. The children participated in traditional Easter egg hunts and family activities that created new positive memories while honoring royal traditions. The Easter gathering also provided an opportunity for Charles to reflect on his growth as both a monarch and a family leader. The crisis had forced him to examine his priorities and had ultimately strengthened his commitment to being a king who honored both institutional responsibilities and family values. Tom and Laura used the Easter weekend to express their ongoing gratitude for their inclusion in family celebrations. Their continued discretion and appropriate behavior validated Charles's decision to resist the advisors who had viewed them as potential problems rather than family assets. The success of the Easter celebration led to planning for future family events with renewed confidence and enthusiasm. The palace staff had developed efficient systems for accommodating the extended family while maintaining appropriate security and protocol standards. Throughout the spring and early summer, various family milestones provided opportunities to reinforce the new inclusive approach. Birthday celebrations, school graduations, and other personal events were planned and executed with the understanding that family unity was a priority alongside institutional responsibilities. The public response to the royal family's inclusive approach remained consistently positive throughout this period. Polling data indicated that the public appreciated the monarchy's commitment to modern family values and authentic relationships over rigid traditional protocols. Royal historians began to note that Charles's handling of the family crisis represented a significant evolution in royal family leadership. His willingness to reconsider bureaucratic recommendations in favor of family harmony demonstrated the kind of adaptive leadership that could help the monarchy remain relevant in contemporary society. The resolution of the crisis also strengthened Charles and Camilla's marriage in ways they hadn't anticipated. Working through the challenge together had reinforced their commitment to each other and to the blended family they had created over years of patient relationship building. As the first anniversary of the crisis approached, the royal family had not only recovered from the temporary division, but had actually emerged stronger and more unified than before. The experience had clarified priorities, strengthened relationships, and demonstrated the monarchy's ability to evolve in response to changing circumstances while maintaining core values. The lessons learned during this period influenced how the royal family approached subsequent challenges and decisions. The importance of balancing institutional advice with family considerations became a guiding principle that helped prevent similar crises in the future. King Charles's willingness to admit his mistake and change course became viewed as a sign of strength rather than weakness. The public and royal correspondents appreciated his human approach to leadership and his commitment to family values alongside royal duties. Queen Camilla's role in advocating for family unity was widely respected and enhanced her standing both within the royal household and in public opinion. Her strength during the crisis and Her grace and resolution demonstrated qualities that made her an effective and beloved queen consort. The children and grandchildren who had been most affected by the crisis adapted completely to the restored family harmony. Their continued close relationships with each other provided ongoing validation for the decision to prioritize family unity over bureaucratic concerns. As the royal family moved forward into the future, the successful resolution of this family crisis provided a template for handling similar challenges with wisdom, compassion, and commitment to both institutional responsibilities and personal relationships. The monarchy had demonstrated its ability to evolve and adapt while maintaining the authentic family values that connected it meaningfully with the public it served. The story of King Charles's decision to initially exclude Camilla's family, and his subsequent reversal of that decision, became a powerful example of leadership that could acknowledge mistakes, learn from experience, and choose human relationships over rigid institutional thinking. In the end, the crisis that had threatened to tear the family apart had actually made them stronger, more united, and more committed to the inclusive values that would guide the monarchy into the future.